Yeah.
So my question is wondering what scriptures you would suggest for refuting sola fide.
Well, go through Matthew 7 and go to Matthew 25 and show where
Gotcha.
Jesus says, not everyone says, Lord, Lord, to the kingdom of heaven, but those who do the will of my Father in heaven. That's Matthew 7, 21 to 23. And then Matthew 25, 31 to 46. So say, here Jesus says, you will be rewarded for your obedience to his law, or you'll be condemned by not obeying his law. Because he says, he who does the will of my Father shall enter the kingdom. He says it, Matthew 7, 21, 23. Read all the way to 27. And Matthew 25, 31, 46 for starters. And then when he tries to tell you that the Bible teaches sola fide, when it says you're justified by faith, not by the works of law, say, yeah, that's not Paul's point. Paul is talking about is that the Jews are insisting that you need to observe the Torah in order to be rewarded with immortality. Paul's point is, no, it's not the works of the law. It's faithfulness to Christ. And here's where people get confused. What he means by faith is he means faithfulness. And I'm going to give you the verses. Paul tells you what he means by faith because he cites Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 4. Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 4, however you want to pronounce it. He cites that passage 3 times because I believe Hebrews is from Paul. He used an amanuensis to write it, but it's his sermon. He uses Habakkuk 2, verse 4 in Romans 1:17, Galatians 3, verse 11, and Hebrews 10:38. Go back and look at the Hebrew of Habakkuk or Habakkuk 2:4. It says, the just shall live by his faith. The word faith, imuna, means by his faithfulness. The righteous will live by being faithful. So for Paul, faith is being faithful to God. What he was debating is, the Jews were saying, the only way you can be faithful to God is keep the works of the law, Torah. He goes, no. Being faithful or having faith that justifies you is being committed to doing what God tells you to do when he tells you to do it. So before the law of Moses, how was Abraham faithful? How did he have faith? By doing what God told him to do. During the time of Moses, how does someone show that he has true faith? How does he or she show that he's faithful? By doing the law of Moses. Now that Christ has come, having faith, being faithful is to obey the commands of Christ. That's all he's saying. Faith for Paul means faithful, being faithful. That's what James is saying. The true faith is the faith that is working, obeying, being faithful. The dead faith is the faith that's simply mental assent. Okay, so Paul, that's his view of faith, being faithful. And how do I know? Again, let me remind you, he cites Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, in Romans 1:17, Galatians 3:11, Hebrews 10:38. There gives you definition of what faith is for Paul. It's not fide, it's fiducia, being faithful. Because if you go back, look at your lexicon at Habakkuk 2:4, the word faith there in Hebrew is emuna. It means to be faithful. The righteous shall live by his faithfulness. Faithfulness to what? To what God demands. So during the time of Moses, being faithful, having faith is to do the law. But at the time of Christ, it's not doing the law. It's being faithful to what God tells you. Now, God tells me that faith that saves is being faithful to Christ. His meaning is completely different from what they're saying. But if you de-Calvinize and de-Lutheranize the Bible and remove these Protestant lenses, everything now makes sense. I hope that helps.
So let me ask you, is this the correct way to say it?
Yes.
So grace is something freely given to us. Obviously, I think everyone here acknowledges that. Faith is how we take hold of that grace, but our faith is dead without our works, which justify us.
Yeah, see, now you're defining faith to mean trust, and having true trust is to obey, right?
Having true trust is to obey, yes.
Yeah, because when you say faith without works is dead, what do you mean by that? Meaning that if I truly have faith in you, that means I truly trust you. And if I trust you, I'll take you at your word to do what you tell me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's That's one way of defining it. But the way I'm defining it is that faith is being faithful. So I don't distinguish works from faith. Now, James does that because he's dealing with a group that are antinomians. They're lawless. They think, oh, just by saying Jesus is Lord, that's good enough. He goes, no, the demons know Jesus is Lord. They're going to hell. So he's distinguishing.
I brought that up to him the other day.
Say it again?
I brought that up to my friend the other day. I keep saying, I tell him, even the demons believe.
Yeah, but here's where the Protestants read their Protestantism into the passage. They say, yeah, we agree. Because the faith that saves is never alone. It is a working faith. Well, if you really listen to yourself, Protestant, you're basically saying you're saved by faithfulness. Yeah, but see, they're so blinded by the Protestant tradition, they're not hearing what they just said. They're just agreeing with the Catholic Orthodox view, the view of the early church. The faith that saves is never alone. It is a working faith. Oh, so you're saved by faithfulness. Yeah. Okay, so you just destroyed sola fide is defined by Martin Luther.
And doesn't James 2:26 say we're justified by works, literally?
Well, it says, just as the body without the spirit is dead, so too faith without works is dead. That's what James 2:26 says. So there is no faith that doesn't have works, just like the body cannot be alive without the spirit. But what you want to do, I'm going to show you something. James 2:25 says that Rahab was justified how? Can you read that?
Similarly, also, Rahab, okay. The harlot, was she not justified by works?
How dare you call someone a whore, dude? What's wrong with you? Sorry. Hey, guys, here's a woman who was justified, and still she's called a whore.
Was she not justified by works? By receiving the messengers and sending them out through another way?
Now, how was Rahab justified?
Was she not justified by works?
By works, right?
James is saying, yeah, by works. Yeah.
But you know what Hebrews 11:31 says that was? Hebrews 11:31. Guys, pay attention. James 2:25 uses the same example that Hebrews does. Now watch. Okay, now read Hebrews 11:31.
By faith, Rahab the harlot did not perish with the unbelievers after receiving the spies with peace.
Wow. Guys, what James called works, Hebrews called faith. Here it is. James 2:25 says, in the same way was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works, by what she did when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way. The same exact example Hebrews uses and calls it faith. Here it is. I wanted you to see it. Hebrews 11:31, brethren. Hebrews 11:31. Same example of James, but here Hebrews calls it faith. By faith, Rahab the harlot did not perish, along with those who were dismissed after welcoming the spies in peace. So what she did is called faith. But James says that is works that justified her. Okay, I'm confused. James 2:25. In the same way, was not Rahab also justified by works when she received the messengers, sent them out by another way? But Hebrews 11:31 says that is what faith is. She was justified by faith. Hebrews 11:31. So you understand why I keep saying faith means to be faithful. Faith is being faithful. Being faithful means you have to do. So this is true faith, being faithful. So this false dichotomy between faith and works, you cannot separate works from faith because it's dead. Just like if you separate the spirit from the body, it's dead. Faith is doing. Faith is obeying. Faith is being faithful. That's what true sola fide is. You're justified solely by your faithfulness. That's it. End the story, man. You can then turn the tables against them saying, hold on, buddy. You know, believing is a work. Do you know Jesus says believing is a work? So if you're not justified by works, then you're not justified by believing either. John 6:27-29, brethren, says believing is a work you do. Believing is a work you do. So if you don't understand what Paul means, you're not justified by works, you're going to have a whole lot of contradictions if you're a Protestant. John 6:27-29.
This is Jesus.
Yep.
This is Jesus saying it.
Yeah.
Therefore they said to him, what should we do so that we may labor in the works of God? Jesus responded and said to them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him who he sent. Wow.
But no, but the believing is present active participle. That you are believing.
Are believing, right.
Okay, but wait, he said believing is a work you must do.
Yeah, because faith is required.
So the claim that you're not justified by works but by faith, if you don't understand what Paul meant, you just create a contradiction between Jesus and Paul, and the liberals and Muslims are going to love you. Because Jesus said, believing is a work you must do in order to obtain the food that will result in eternal life. You skipped 27, but that's okay. You got it now, right?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Guys, you need to know this. Good commentary will help you. Or you can look at Bible Hub Interlinear and tell you the tense. Present active participle. Present tense means ongoing. So literally it says, the believing ones. The believing ones. In other words, belief is ongoing. Well, how do you continuously believe? How are you believing if that doesn't mean you are obeying? Because to be believing means that you're trusting Christ to do what he tells you. So John 3:16 didn't help his case. Say, wait. It says the believing ones, meaning that it's an ongoing, continuous, active belief. I am believing. So what happens if you stop believing? Well, John 15 tells you then you're cut off. If you're not abiding in Christ. And Jesus even says, John 14:23-24, believing is to do his commandments. And if you're not doing his commandments, that shows you're not believing and that you hate him. John 14:23-24.
Jesus responded and said to him, if anyone loves me, he shall keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him, and we will make our dwelling place with him. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words. And the word that you have heard is not of me, but it is of the Father who sent me.
So if you don't keep his word, do you love him?
Nope.
Are you believing in him if you don't keep his word?
Nope.
So that's what believing in him is. It's to be faithful to do what he commands. That's it. I'm the story, brother.
Yeah,
I hope that helped you, because after
say,
this, if he doesn't listen, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Because you can say you love your wife, but if you're cheating on her, then do you really love
Exactly. So that means it's being faithful to your covenant partner, right?
Right. Yep.
Because marriage is a covenant.
Yep.
To lovers, to be faithful to your covenant partner. That's it. End of story.